Story 1. AITA for breaking up with my girlfriend because of a caught cheating prank? Advice needed. I, 26M, broke up with my girlfriend, 25F, of 2 years, because of something that happened recently. And now my friends are saying I massively overreacted. So, a few days ago, my girlfriend and a close mutual friend decided to play a prank on me. The prank was that they filmed a scenario where I caught them in bed together, pretending they were hooking up. They set up a hidden camera in the bedroom, and when I walked in, I saw him in just boxers and my girlfriend in a bra and panties, straddling him, acting like they were mid-hookup. To make it more realistic, they even made some noises and tried to act like it was happening for real. I was shocked, furious, and immediately confronted them as I thought it was real at first, like an actual betrayal. And then I walked out of the room and started leaving the house. When they followed me screaming it was just a prank and then showed me the video they'd been recording. To be honest, I felt completely betrayed not just by the idea of the prank, but also because of how they had gotten undressed to film it. I know it's meant to be funny to some people, but for me it felt disrespectful and I was hurt. The whole thing felt like a violation of trust, even though I know they weren't actually cheating. I told her I couldn't be in a relationship with someone who would do something like that, and I ended things right there. She's devastated, and our friends have been telling me I overreacted. They think it was just a harmless prank and I should have taken it better. But I can't shake the feeling that it crossed a line for me, especially with how intimate and uncomfortable it felt to see them in that situation, even if it wasn't real. Now I'm left wondering if I made the right decision. I'm starting to doubt myself because everyone else seems to think I blew it out of proportion. Edit. I did not expect this many responses. Thank you guys. She posted here earlier and sent me a link to her post. I know she wants me to watch the video to prove it was all set up and planned, but I feel she still doesn't get that I am upset about her disregard and disrespect for me and our relationship. Anyways, I am going to sign off for the night. Update. My ex-GF was really upset with all the hate she received online and blamed me for painting her in a bad light. I told her I did no such thing. She just didn't like that she got called out on her behavior. The mutual friend who was part of the prank is now also pissed off at me and saying I went way overboard. I told them both to fuck off and have blocked their numbers. Our friends have since started taking this more seriously after reading some of the comments on here, with a few taking my side and saying what my GF and the friend did was horrible. Others still think this was all unnecessary and I should just have laughed it off and moved on.
Story 2. AITA for doing nothing for the child my ex-wife had from her affair even now that I have primary custody of our kids. 6 years ago I, 36M, learned that my ex-wife, 37F, was cheating on me. I ended our marriage and filed for divorce, but everything was delayed because she was pregnant. Once her child was born and it was established that I was not the biological father, my name was removed from the birth certificate and the bio father's name was added. They were a couple at this point. Throughout, we shared 50-50 custody of our 3 children together. My kids were old enough to figure out what happened. I got them therapy eventually after my ex resisted putting them in therapy, and we had talks about everything. I did my best to reassure them that they didn't need to hate anyone for me or reject anyone on my behalf. But their relationship with their mom never recovered, and the relationship with her youngest never existed from what I know. The affair partner took off 3 years ago, and since then my ex-wife has requested that I take an active part in her child's life because I'm so involved in our kids' lives. Each and every time she has made this request via parenting app, I have firmly said no. She tried to take full custody of our kids because I refused to include her youngest, and a judge told her it didn't work like that, and I did not have a legal responsibility to her youngest child. I ended up with primary custody of my children a year ago because my ex-wife made some very bad decisions and not only lost the house she was staying in but lost her job, had no savings, and overall was left with next to nothing. After this happened, her requests for me to do something for her child increased. I ignored them for the most part and did as I was instructed to do by my lawyer and replied to the ones that indicated I was responsible for ensuring the child was adequately cared for. Those I did say no to and reminded her there were places she could go if she needed help feeding her youngest. Our kids still must go to her house for her every other weekend visitation, and they hate it, which angers my ex because they have zero relationship with her youngest, and it angers her that I won't ensure that all of the kids have a good relationship and that her youngest knows what it's like to have a fatherly figure. She said she would allow me to adopt her child if I was willing. Then she said she would at least like me to do something, to express some care for her child. Send birthday and Christmas gifts, send food occasionally, offer to let her child join in for some activities. I do none of this. I have asked my kids if they would like to spend more time with their half-sibling or give gifts, but they have always said no, and they told me when they can make the decision not to go to their mom's house, they won't have anything to do with her child either. My ex has become more angry because there are things her child has missed out on, and apparently they ask more questions now. Some of her messages on the app are now extremely hostile. There's nothing I can do about this for the moment, but they're saved, so if we end up back in court, they can be shown. She told me I act like I'm such a good person, but I treat a child like shit. I don't feel bad exactly. I know I would have a very hard time being around this child, and they're innocent, so I prefer to stay away and not let them feel the weight of my issues with their mother and how they were conceived. But maybe that makes me an awful person. I know at the end of all this is a child who has only got my ex and nobody else, and the child is innocent like I stated. Which brought me here to ask. AITA?
Story 3. AITA for breaking up and treating him like a stranger after he falsely promised marriage as a condition for living together. My F32 boyfriend, Alan M34, and I have been together for 5 years. We talked about marriage since year number 2. We put all our cards on the table, including deal breakers and expectations. We agreed to move in together on the condition of getting engaged. He told me that he would propose before the end of the year. My family was dead set against it. They said moving together without a ring on it was risky. I paid no ring and went ahead. It's been over 2 years. No engagement, there has been no proposal, and there's no ring. In the meantime, I've kept my word to be there for him as a partner. He lost his job and I took on some extra work to cover all our bills. He found a new job, and I coached him through problems with his new boss. His family has a history of conflict and are constantly creating bad situations for themselves, and I've done my best to help him solve their shit without being too judgmental because at the end of the day, it affects him. I've asked him about our engagement so many times that I feel like I'm begging. He has been vague and has asked to leave our conversation for another day because he's tired, and wedding plans would be exhausting. I've been direct and asked if he changed his mind. I need to know because he repeatedly said otherwise before renting a place, and I need to know where I stand. I'm not presumptuous, I don't need a flashy expensive ring. I just need to know that he meant his promise. We tried this conversation again, and he took it lightly. I tried again days later, and he looked annoyed when I'm just asking for a clear answer. He has postponed the proposal without a clear reason. What bothers me is that he was more open to it back when he felt vulnerable. I don't want to be with a man who will only mention marriage out of survival, and I told him. I asked him a few weeks ago because I can't deal with monosyllables, changing the subject and the general limbo. He snapped at me and said that a relationship is much more than a wedding, and that I'm pressuring him. I swallowed my pride and reminded him that I loved him and that spending the rest of our lives together was all I wanted. He softened up and said to please understand that he loves me, but pressing the issue was hurting our relationship. I asked if that was a no, and he said he never said that. I feel like a second-class person in his life, and I don't know how he can love me and ruin my trust. I found out that he won't buy me a ring, but he put $1,500 towards his younger brother's 30th birthday celebration, all while I'm covering a bit over 60% of our expenses. I confronted him directly, and he looked like he didn't know what to say. I ended up crying because he's changed so much that his efforts to help me celebrate my birthdays have gone a bit half-assed. He's giving out money that he can't afford to spend, but I had to buy my own Sara Lee cake while trying not to make him self-conscious about spending. I decided to move out after feeling crushed and being convinced that he lied to me. Our lease ends on May 30th and I told him that I'm leaving. He asked me many times if I'm 100% sure this is what I want, and I said I have no choice because he walked all over my dignity. I'm sleeping on the sofa because seeing him hurts a lot. He has tried to talk, but I'm afraid this will turn into another 2 years of me pouring myself into his needs, and he will just keep stringing me along. He asked if we could at least talk to the landlord and see if we could get a 3-month extension period, but I declined. He freaked out because his joint custody agreement included that he needed a place of his own, because his ex hates his family and refused to allow their kids to spend extended periods with him. I said I'm sorry, but he just needs to get moving and find his own solution. I'm leaving on Monday so that I can stay with a friend. I don't care if I still have to pay for my remaining portion of the rent, I don't want to see him. He came to the living room because he wanted to talk and asked me if I would be comfortable moving on to someone else. I refused to answer and have been short with him because there's no way that I can forgive him. To be fair, he does look drenched and emotionally disturbed by my decision. I've already blocked his entire family, and when he found out, I said I no longer have any obligation towards anyone on his side. He asked to talk about our relationship, and I asked not to interact, because it makes me want to cry. Last night, he went to sleep on the futon next to where I'm sleeping and said he just wants to stay close because he will be crushed once I'm gone. I asked him to please go to the bedroom or I'll just be forced to stay in a hotel. He says he understands my point of view but that I'm treating him like shit. AITA.